What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you are like us, counting down the days until training camp starts. We have about 3 weeks to go. We're going to go ahead and round to that. It feels better, makes us feel better, makes us feel like football's closer than it really is. It's really not that long, and once training camp gets here, it's obviously an onslaught of action that doesn't stop, hopefully, until the Super Bowl is over. But today we are continuing our training camp preview here on the Blog of the Boys YouTube channel. Make sure you do subscribe so you don't miss any of our wonderful videos. We are looking at each and every position group one by one, discussing what the Dallas Cowboys have and kind of forecasting what we can expect throughout camp and obviously throughout the regular season. Today we are discussing the position that a lot of people think does not matter. It's an interesting conversation. It kind of doesn't, but it obviously does in a literal sense. Running backs. Running backs are a part of a football team, but this is a passing game, a passing league. You shouldn't give a running back a big-time contract if you're running an NFL team, but hey, water under the bridge is water under the bridge. Today, though, we are talking about the Dallas Cowboys running backs. We list these in alphabetical order, so nobody get upset. We are looking at every single running back on the Dallas Cowboys roster, and just so we're very clear here, I know we had some discussion about this in our comment section. You can always comment down below, by the way. We pull our roster directly from DallasCowboys.com just to avoid any confusion. We want to list it exactly the way the team does, but we've got Malik Davis, who joined the team this year, obviously Rico Dowdle, Ezekiel Elliott, Jaquan Hardy, Tony Pollard, and Aaron Shamsklin. Look, all due respect to all of the running backs on this team. I think Rico Dowdle has an interesting potential role. Let's kind of just get through that quickly. Rico Dowdle, I think, is the person in line to be the team's third running back, third ball carrier, third backfield player, however you want to look at that. Obviously, the Cowboys, have fullback options in Nick Ralston and Ryan Nall as well. But Rico Dowdle, I think, is the only other person that isn't Ezekiel Elliott or Tony Pollard that could be trusted to carry the ball. And so in that sense, that's important. But this whole thing really comes down to Zeke Elliott and Tony Pollard. We know that if you have been watching the Dallas Cowboys or following them for any time, you know that this backfield is a two-man show, Zeke Elliott and Tony Pollard. However, it's really only a one-man show. The Dallas Cowboys have wanted this to be Zeke Elliott's backfield from the day they drafted him a little bit over 6 years ago. It's Zeke, 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 the Zeke show, number 21, feed Zeke, etc. Tony Pollard is obviously a very talented running back, and the fact is, he should be used more than he has been. I think that consensus opinion finally agrees with this. This is an interesting year for the Cowboys in that after the 2022 season, Dallas can get out of the contract they gave to Zeke Elliott 3 years ago for the first time, which they haven't been able to do, obviously, to this point. And Tony Pollard, unlike Zeke, doesn't have a contract with the Cowboys for next year, but in a similar sense to Zeke, the team is likely going to be without him in 2023 because it is a contract year for him, because somebody else is likely going to pay him, because the Cowboys have heard it for years from all their fans how paying a running back was a mistake, and they're unlikely going to make that mistake again. Not that it would be a mistake to pay Tony Pollard. That's a whole different discussion. Today we're talking about kind of looking at these two runners specifically. So if we look at what Zeke Elliott and Tony Pollard did in 2021, actually what you're seeing here is every single person who carried the ball at least one time for the Cowboys in 2021. But again, the heavier focus is obviously on numbers 21 and 20. Zeke Elliott carrying the ball 237 times last season for 1,002 yards, barely hit 1,000 yards on the season. I talked about that with my friends at the Sports Report last week, and that was something, as we all know, the Cowboys were very proud of. It took, obviously, through Week 18, that meaningless game in Philadelphia. The Cowboys set all sorts of franchise records, and then, obviously, the season was very frustratingly over 1 week later. But Zeke Elliott did get his 1,000 yards. As you can see, Tony Pollard only 130 carries compared to Zeke's 237, so over 100 fewer carries for Tony Pollard last season, and not even 300 less yards. So very impressive for Tony Pollard. 10 rushing touchdowns for Zeke. So we did reach double-digit scores in 2021. Only 2, this is on the ground specifically for Tony Pollard. Obviously, he's very talented in many different ways. As you can see, the longest run of the season for Zeke Elliott was 47 yards. Meanwhile, for Tony Pollard, it was 58. The thing that I think everybody really harps on, this gets diluted sometimes, this conversation, this argument, but is what these two runners represent, right? Zeke Elliott has never really been the, breakaway guy. That's never been his sort of thing. He's had his moments. You could look at it wasn't a traditional run, it was a screen pass, but his rookie year in Pittsburgh, everybody remembers that 83-yard touchdown. Everybody also remembers the end of that game where he had the breakaway touchdown to win it, basically as a walk-off. He had a big 60-yard touchdown against the Cincinnati Bengals early on his rookie year. So he did have some kind of from downtown scores, but he was never this just like electric, super fast. He's never been like Chris Johnson or somebody like that. Tony Pollard, though, is very fast. That's the kind of the difference. Zeke isn't like a bruiser. You're not dealing with this sort of cliche thunder and lightning situation, but you are dealing with two different kind of styles of running. Zeke, a very physical, very powerful, very imposing sort of running back. Meanwhile, Tony Pollard, very agile, very quick, very elusive. And it's not a shock, I don't think, that when you look at their yards per attempt, and again, these are a little bit of this could be, I think, constituted as cherry picking because so much depends on the context of the moment and things like that, and that's where Zeke apologists kind of come in and argue for him. But yards per attempt last year, Zeke Elliott 4.2 yards per carry, Tony Pollard 5.5. Tony Pollard averaging literally an entire yard more per carry than Zeke Elliott. As you can see, yards per game, despite getting over 100 fewer carries on the season, Tony Pollard just 11 yards behind Zeke Elliott as far as yards per game. And that's the frustrating thing, right? That's what when we talk about looking at the Cowboys running backs and forecasting and what they're going to be, it has to be a situation where they utilize Tony Pollard more. It has to. There's no question about it. If the Cowboys do not use Tony Pollard more in 2022, it will be an indictment on their ability to evaluate talent on their own football team. And I think the only thing that's going to press the situation for them, the only thing that could force them to utilize Tony Pollard, which is ultimately what we want, right? We ultimately don't care about how the sausage is made here. We just want to see Tony Pollard used more. It might be that he's in a contract year. We've seen the Cowboys overwork runners, obviously, in a contract year or a year before they plan on moving on, in Zeke's case, and so we might see that. But they do not want to generally deviate from Zeke being the show. And that's, again, when you have this conversation and you have this debate, sometimes it turns into people thinking that if you're Team Tony Pollard, then you think Zeke is terrible or Zeke is trash. And I don't think anybody really feels that way. Nobody is saying one of these runners is good and one of them is bad. There's obviously, something to celebrate that both of these players play for the Dallas Cowboys, but they should both be utilized. And I think that that's where the disconnect happens sometimes within the team, within the offense, within the scheme. Kellen Moore gets a lot of credit for being innovative and for being young and hip and new and things like that. And you say new, this is actually his fourth season as the team's offensive coordinator, but Kellen Moore has failed to utilize Tony Pollard. Kellen Moore took over as offensive coordinator Tony Pollard's rookie year. I mean, we're talking about Tony Pollard's entire career with the Dallas Cowboys has been with Kellen Moore as his offensive coordinator. And so I think that, Kellen deserves criticism. Mike McCarthy deserves criticism. There's plenty of criticism to go around, but you have to utilize Tony Pollard. Let's look at their Pro Football Focus scores from last year. Again, it's not, you shouldn't read into this and take this and run, but all of this context is very interesting. That number on the left, that rank, that is ranks of all running backs in the NFL last year. And this is ranks off of offensive grade. In case you don't know, PFF has different grades that they hand out. We looked here today, or we just left it on as far as the screen grab is concerned on offensive grade. So Tony Pollard ranked as the fourth best running back in the NFL last year from an offensive grade standpoint, but they do grade, different sectors of playing running back. PFF does. As you can see, Zeke Elliott was 32nd. And so that doesn't mean that Tony Pollard's the fourth best running back in the NFL and Zeke Elliott's the 32nd best running back in the NFL, but it does mean that there is a gap here, that Tony Pollard should be utilized more. And a huge argument is obviously always, one argument that is always in Zeke's favor is his ability as a pass protector. And we've talked about that, right? That's not to say that is not a real thing. That has been a very real thing for a very long time. But sometimes things change. If you look at their pass block grade, which is the second from the right, that PBLK, you can see that Tony Pollard had a better pass blocking grade than Zeke Elliott last year. And so the context changes, the conversation changes. And so I don't know that we're going to see anything at training camp that's going to make us feel good. In fact, if I'm being honest with you, I think training camp's only going to serve to piss us off as Dallas Cowboys fans because, the Cowboys have said we're having, I'm starting several different conversations at once. Let me back up here. You and I assume, want to see Tony Pollard used more by the Dallas Cowboys, right? That's the end result that we desire. That does not have to be as a running back, right? And I think we agree there, right? Just put the ball in his hands, however that has to happen, whether you hand it to him in his gut, whether you dump it off to him on a screenplay, whether you utilize him in the slot because right now you're down receivers, whether you do whatever it takes, get the ball to Tony Pollard. That's what we all want to see, right? Okay, So that being said, fine, Cowboys. You want to run your 11 personnel offense. You want to have Zeke Elliott be the one running back in your backfield because it means a lot to you or because you think he's great, whatever the reason or cause may be, fine. You can have them both on the field at once. So with regards to training camp, I think that that's something that we are going to need to be a little bit cautious of and maybe temper our expectations for, because we've seen that before. We saw that at OTAs. The Cowboys come out and both of them are on the field at the same time, and we let our emotions and our expectations kind of run away from us. And so it might mean that the Dallas Cowboys are planning on utilizing both in 2022. It might mean that, they're experimenting. They have done it before. It's not like they've never done that before. They've just kind of gotten away from it throughout the season. The Athletic's Bob Sturm did a fantastic write-up on this subject a few months ago. So the ultimate thing here, we know, we trust, we believe that the Dallas Cowboys are going to find a way to use Zeke Elliott over the course of the entire season. I don't think any of us disagree with that idea, disagree with that assessment. That same approach, that same purpose, that same disposition has to be shared when it comes to Tony Pollard. He is too valuable of a player, as I hit the microphone here. And the Cowboys are now, we've talked, we haven't gotten to wide receivers yet in our training camp preview series, but the Cowboys are down to Amari Cooper. You've lost a skill position player. At the beginning of the season, presumably, they're going to be without Michael Gallup. You have to find a way. You cannot let Tony Pollard spend his entire rookie contract with you and not get, something legitimate out of it. Tony Pollard next year is going to be on who knows what team, and he is going to be awesome. He's going to be amazing, and we're going to sit here and we could be frustrated and say, man, that dude was on our team, and it would be a very frustrating sort of thing. So Zeke Elliott, Tony Pollard, they're the show. Hopefully it is, and that doesn't mean like they're to be 50-50 or 55-45, whatever. Just use them both. You have multiple running backs that are talented. Use them both, and everybody wins. Up next in our training camp preview series, the defensive tackle position. I'm going to look at the interior of the Dallas Cowboys defensive line. Because it's kind of deep. That's my take. That's my early take. So for now, we hope you enjoyed our discussion on Dallas Cowboys running backs. Make sure to subscribe here to the Block of the Boys YouTube channel. Like I said, we have videos coming out as a part of our training camp preview series every couple of days. We also have, obviously, other videos when things happen associated with the team. Recently, we had a video go up about some members of the Dallas Cowboys, including Zeke Elliott, who were working out together at what looked like the University of Miami. So thanks for hanging out, everybody. My name is RJ Ochoa. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at RJ Ochoa. You can follow me on TikTok at rj.ochoa. You can also email me, rj.ochoa@sbnation.com if that is more your speed. But for now, we bid you a fond farewell. We'll see you next time. Thanks for hanging out.